What if the key to Manchester United's future is hidden in Ruben Amorim's past? When Amorim took over at Sporting, the club was in shambles, but within months, he moved on 25 players. Within a year, they were champions, going unbeaten for 32 straight games. So what exactly did Amorim do in that first transfer window that transformed Sporting from chaos to champions? And more importantly, what does it tell us about what's to come at United this summer? To answer these questions, we need to understand the context Amorim faced when he first arrived in Lisbon. When Amorim arrived at Sporting in March 2020, he inherited a club in turmoil. Just 2 years earlier, Sporting had experienced perhaps its darkest moment when members of an official supporters group broke into the training ground and physically assaulted players. This shocking incident led to a mass exodus, with many promising stars departing, and this crisis forced Sporting to rebuild and refocus on their traditional strength, youth development. By the time Amorim took charge, Sporting was a wounded giant, desperately seeking stability and direction. The club needed to work smart with limited resources, a situation that might sound familiar to Manchester United fans right now. Amorim immediately recognised that to implement his 3-4-3 system, he needed specific player profiles. Ball-playing centre-backs comfortable in a back three, athletic wide centre-backs comfortable covering the channels, dynamic wing-backs with stamina and technical ability, versatile midfielders with both defensive awareness and creative instincts, and forwards who could press and exploit the space. With these profiles in mind, Amorim set about reshaping the squad in his first summer window. But how do you build something new without first clearing away the old? The answer lies in his approach to player departures. Amorim wasn't sentimental about squad building. Despite inheriting players who had been regular starters, he quickly identified those who didn't fit his vision and moved them on decisively. In total, Amorim oversaw the departure of 25 players in his first window. 8 sold permanently, 14 out on loan, and 3 released as free transfers. And perhaps most telling was his willingness to move on established first-team regulars. Wendell, with 39 appearances the previous season, Marcos Acuna with 36, and Luciano Vietto with 35 appearances. They weren't fringe players, they were core members of the previous team. On loan, he sent out Idrissa Doumbia with 35 appearances, Eduardo Henrique, 22 appearances, and Rafael Camacho, who had 26 appearances. Amorim's ruthlessness even extended to recent signings. 4 players who had arrived just the previous season were already deemed surplus to requirements. 1 left permanently, and 3 out on loan. Now, what does this tell us about Amorim's approach? He prioritises system fit over reputation, experience, or previous status. Players unsuitable for the vision were moved on without hesitation, regardless of their standing at the club. Now, we've already seen proof of this at United with Casemiro being benched and Marcus Rashford moving out on loan. But they aren't alone. Any player unable or unwilling to adapt to Amorim's specific requirements could find themselves deemed surplus, regardless of their price tag or previous importance. But tearing something down is no good if there isn't a plan for rebuilding. So who did Amorim bring in to replace these players? Sporting's recruitment under Amorim followed 3 clear guidelines: a small number of experienced players, mainly from outside Portugal, young promising talent from the domestic league, and the integration of academy products. Let's look at the permanent signings. First up is Pedro Gonçalves, Amorim's most expensive of the window. Then you've got Bruno Tabata, a creative attacking midfielder, Zuhair Fadal, an experienced centre-back from Real Betis, Nuno Santos, who was a versatile wing-back/winger, Antonio Adan, an experienced goalkeeper on a free transfer, and Túnez and João Pereira, veteran defenders, both on free transfers. Paulinho was signed for €16 million, but that was in the January before Amorim arrived, and by chance he was signed from Braga, the team Amorim coached at the time. The loan market was potentially even more important, bringing in João Mario, an experienced midfielder, Pedro Porro, a dynamic right wing-back who perfectly suited Amorim's system, and then Mateus Reis, a versatile defender who could play in multiple positions. What stands out is the sort of targeted nature of these signings. Each player filled a specific role in the system. The strategy of experience with Adan and Fadal and João Mario, and emerging talent like Gonçalves and Santos, and system specialists like Porro. Most impressive though, for sure, was Pedro Gonçalves. He was transformed from a number 8 midfielder into a wide forward, and the result was 23 goals, a golden boot, and recognition as the league's young player of the season. Sporting found their Bruno Fernandes replacement at a fraction of the cost. Yet the best aspect of Amorim's squad building wasn't who he bought, it was what he did with what he already had. He promoted several youngsters from the academy who became crucial to the title-winning campaign. Nuno Mendes, a left wing-back who went from 9 appearances the previous season to 35 in that title-winning year. Gonçalo Inácio, a centre-back who made 25 appearances just like Daniel Bragança. Thiago Thomas, a forward who featured in 37 matches, up from just 5 the previous season, and Mateus Nunes, a midfielder who played 39 times after being given his debut by Amorim. These academy products would become fundamental pieces of that championship-winning squad. Nuno Mendes in particular was viewed as tailor-made for Amorim's system as a wing-back. And Amorim's approach wasn't to simply throw young players into the deep end, but rather to carefully introduce them alongside those experienced heads like Adan and Fadal, who help with the stability. Now, at United, that environment doesn't really exist right now. But it does signal potential opportunities for academy products to flourish under Amorim if the environment is right. And that is a big if right now. The results of Amorim's squad overhaul were nothing really short of spectacular. Sporting won the league in his first season with 2 games to spare. They set a league record for the longest unbeaten run in a single season of 32 matches, and they went top after match day 6 and were there for the rest of the season. The new signings performed. Pedro Gonçalves with 23 goals, Nuno Santos proving to be a bargain. Antonio Adan, signed on a free, was vital in goal, and both Pedro Porro and João Mario were key players in on loan. The departures, despite including the established players, ultimately created space for a more cohesive unit that was able to execute what Amorim needed. And financially, the window was impressive. For relatively modest investments, Sporting created a title-winning team while developing assets that would later be sold on for significant profits. And that summer, they spent less than they made in their sales. Could this blueprint work at United? And if so, which players should be worried about their future? Yeah, quite a lot of them, let's be honest. And let's quickly turn to United's current reality. The challenges include players signed for vastly different philosophies, players who aren't good enough, players who are too old or past their peak, unproven talents, players on huge wages, promising youngsters who need development, and players unsuited to the system. Beyond the expected departures of Casemiro, Eriksen, Lindelof, Shaw needs to probably be moved on, Mount's got a big question mark hanging over his head, there's questions over the likes of Højlund, Onana, Maguire, Xerxes, Dalot, and the priority recruitments are clear. If Amorim is going to play that 3-4-3 system, we need the new right wing back. We need new central midfielders, attackers and defenders. Ta-da! Yeah, basically everywhere. But here's where things get interesting. Will United's financial constraints definitely stop Amorim building what he wants? Maybe not. At Sporting, financial necessity after the training ground incident forced creative solutions. Academy promotions, shrewd-free transfers and perfect loan deals. Those constraints didn't limit Sporting, they just had to focus their attention elsewhere. United kind of find themselves in a bit of a similar position now. PSR restrictions and financial pressures mean we can't simply spend our way out of trouble, and let's be honest, we've spent our way into trouble. This will force the club to be surgical in recruitment, creative with loans, and brave with academy talent. Precisely the environment where Amorim did thrive at Sporting. Of course, it's different at Manchester United, but if United can repeat the success of Amorim's first window at Sporting, then the precedent is there to see how much of an impact that can have. It's not really a quick fix, but the first step towards sustainable success, and the summer will be decisive. The success of United depends heavily on the success in the transfer window. And looking at Amorim's first season, if you can get that window right, you can have a serious impact on your chances next season.